The U.S. election is upon us, and I'm here with Gideon Rachman, the FT's chief foreign affairs columnist, and Brooke Masters, our company's editor. Gideon, whoever gets elected is going to be the most unpopular president in our recent history, if not history, period. Are we going to have a legitimacy crisis?
I think there is a real risk of that, because if you look at the polling numbers, there was a poll where people were asked, would they accept the next president as legitimate if it was Trump? Less than 50% of Americans said yes, but only 52 or so percent of Americans said they would accept Hillary as a legitimate president. And if you see the tenor of their campaign, it's not that surprising. The Democrats regard Trump as barely a democratic, with a small d, politician, somebody with strong authoritarian tendencies, and Trump has said that Hillary is a criminal.
And if there's one thing we know about Trump, what he does when he loses something is he sues, right? So yeah. We might see some of that. We do have some historical experience of this, though, in as much as Bush won after Bush v. Gore was seen as illegitimate by a lot of Americans, but that seemed to me to pass fairly quickly.
Yeah, eventually it settled down, but that was partly because Gore played the Boy Scout. You know, when the Supreme Court ruled against him, he didn't keep fighting. He said, okay, the courts have ruled. Is one really confident that Donald Trump will do that sort of thing and just say, I accept the legitimacy of this result? Or indeed that liberals who regard Trump as absolutely abhorrent would accept Trump as president?
Brooke, what's at stake?
I suppose the easiest thing is the Supreme Court. We have an open seat already. If Hillary wins and controls the Senate, she has a decent shot of forcing through a nominee. Ditto, if Trump wins and the Senate doesn't flip, he can force through his nominee. This particular seat was held by Antonin Scalia, so it's a conservative seat, or has been. So if Hillary wins, she flips the Supreme Court from conservative to liberal.
So from our position sitting here in London, outside of the United States, what is at stake globally for countries other than the United States?
Look, I think all the assumptions we've made about American leadership in the world since basically 1945 are up in the air, because Trump is an explicit protectionist, has said he will impose swingeing tariffs on China, Japan, and so on. He is also somebody who has clearly reservations about the alliance system that America's constructed, on which the global security system is based. He's talked about, well, if NATO allies don't pay more money, if Japan and South Korea don't do more in their own defense, well, maybe we won't protect them. And you can see the enthusiasm from Vladimir Putin, for example, for a Trump presidency, because there would be this thought that, well, maybe the Americans would leave the door open in Europe to the Russians. And so I think there's an enormous amount at stake for the whole world.
Brooke, any thoughts?
I also think we shouldn't forget the effect on their own domestic politics. If Brexit is followed by a Trump victory, that suggests that populism is really on the march. Yeah. And I think we could see all kinds of things in the French elections, for example. It will embolden people in countries everywhere. It really is a real challenge to the elites.
We'll have a real question mark hanging over Europe. It seems reasonable to suggest.
Absolutely. I mean, Europe's in a weakened economic state. It's in a weakened political state. And as Brooke says, I mean, the next big political event in Europe is Marine Le Pen making a run for the French presidency. As things stand, I don't think many people expect us to get even to 40%. But if Trump were to win, then I think all bets are off.
Leaving aside the winner, how has this election changed U.S. politics?
I think it's called into question the whole constitutional system of checks and balances. I mean, Donald Trump has run explicitly saying that he doesn't believe in most of the things that are in the Constitution. And I think that fundamentally opens to the door to all kinds of different positions, both the left and right. And because if it's illegitimate from the right, it's also illegitimate for the left.
Yeah, look, for me as a sort of outsider, but as somebody who's always been sort of in the pro-American camp in Europe, and that's been a dividing line in European politics, it's a profoundly shocking event, because I've believed in the United States as an example, as the world's leading democracy, as an example to the West. And to see a candidate like Donald Trump, who I don't really think is a Democrat, who has all sorts of pretty appalling instincts, very close to winning the presidency, is profoundly shocking. And that shock will last even if Hillary Clinton were to win.
All right, friends, it's prediction time. Who's going to win, and is it going to be close or not?
Brooke, you first.
My head says Hillary's going to win. I've got a really bad feeling in my stomach, though. But I know I do. I think in the end she will win.
Yes.
Look, I'm like Brooke. I think I have no bigger insight than the opinion polls, and most opinion polls are reasonably reassuring and suggest that Hillary Clinton will win, but that it'll be very close. And we all got burnt, if you were in Britain, by Brexit, where the pollsters were surprised.